the Lloyd CEO, Inga Beale, who I will bring in now. Of course, you might know it better as Lloyds of London, but Lloyd's CEO. Why are you here in Asia? Let's talk about that first of all. Obviously, the backdrop of the Asian Financial Forum every year is the financing for the big Chinese initiative, Belt and Road. What opportunities do you see in Asia and China in particular for Lloyd's?
There's a lot of opportunity in this region. When we look around the various regions in the world, the biggest growth in insurance is coming from Asia. It's nearly double-digit growth, which way beats anywhere else in the world. So therefore, it's a big part of our strategy. China in particular with Belt and Road, and if you think about all the construction that's going to go on, the entire pathway of that project, that's going to be all sorts of opportunities again for insurers as we can step in behind and de-risk all the investment that's needed, ensure the major construction projects that are going to be underway. So it's actually a very exciting time for Lloyd's in Asia.
Do you see improved or more constrained market access for this part of the world, particularly China?
Well, the way we look at protectionism, it's actually on the rise, and that's almost everywhere in the world. It seems to be a sign of the sort of anti-globalization push or sort of feeling around the world. And we're seeing lots of protectionism from the US right the way through Asia. Although
worse than a year ago, you were saying.
I would have said, when we look at the number of trade barriers that are being put up, yes, they're on the increase. Now, you've got some liberalization going on. You've got China opening up to foreign insurers. We've also got India opening up to foreign insurers. But within that, there's actually quite a lot of protectionist regulation that comes along, which means that it's difficult to take that risk outside of those borders. So we are seeing protectionism being an overall global trend right across the world.
Now, we are going to talk about Brexit, but as you also expand beyond the core in the UK and London, you're setting up an office in Brussels, you are going to be diversifying where you can underwrite. Does Asia take a bigger slice of that in, say, 5 years?
Yeah, Lloyd's used to be always very, very London-centric, but it's changed. And Asia's been a big part of our growth for some time. We've got two platforms, two offices in Beijing and Shanghai. We've got about $300 million coming through that platform here in Hong Kong. We've been here for many years. $200 million we write through here. Singapore's another big platform. We've got revenues of nearly $600 million in Singapore. And India, we opened up last year. So very exciting times for us in Asia.
How are you reading what's happening on the continent with the negotiations with the UK and some of the positioning? We have the Spaniards and the Dutch maybe taking a softer approach as opposed to maybe, the key EU negotiator saying, a little bit harder line, maybe a hard Brexit. What are you seeing right now in the first part of the year?
Still difficult to tell. We obviously have lots of communication with Treasury back in the UK, with Theresa May and her government, but they don't know this. They can't give us any more certainty at the moment. But what they are hoping to do is by the end of the first quarter in this year, actually give us some idea about what the implementation period will look like, that transitional period. Right. But we're still going full steam ahead on our plans to open up in Brussels. This will look after the business from the EU 27 markets, about 2 billion euros of business for us. We're going full steam ahead as if it's going to be a hard Brexit. So we'll be up and running by the 1st of January 2019.
Now, how big of an office? Because early on, I believe when you announced that you were going to open up in Brussels in March, you were talking about maybe in the tens. But then there's word that maybe it'll be 100. It'll pretty much depend on how the financial services part of the free trade agreement, how that negotiation goes.
Yeah, the thing is with free trade agreements is that often financial services are not included. Free trade agreements tend to be about goods. So we will have to see whether financial services comes within that. But whatever it is, there might be able to be some sort of financial services solution, because fundamentally the whole of Europe benefits if London is a strong financial centre. And that's why we're hoping that there will be some resolution to keeping London's importance as part of the Europe, even though the UK may be outside of the EU 27.
Do you still have some hope that perhaps, no matter what kind of Brexit they do negotiate, that you will still be able to have underwriting in London for business in the continent?
One of the big pieces we've asked for is to have the delegation back to London, and that also goes for a lot of the asset managers. They have thousands of portfolio managers giving advice from the UK. And we are planning on the basis, the financial services sector, planning on the basis that delegation will still be allowed post-Brexit.
Okay. There's been a lot of chatter, too, as there's a lot of uncertainty about whether there would be even a second referendum. Is that even something you would think is feasible, or no way? They might end up with a situation where they're worse than they are today if they vote for the second time to remain.
Sentiment, it's very difficult to tell what's going on in the UK in terms of people's views. Lloyds was always out to remain. We said that it was going to be detrimental to our business model, and there are some costs involved, although we've got strong, robust plans to counteract that. I don't think at the moment there's going to be any second referendum. I think it's too uncertain, and the government's already down the path of negotiating. The outcome, though, whether it's soft or hard Brexit, will be really, really important, I think, for the strength of the UK economy going forward.
Are you getting any indication that the EU officials will give some wiggle room, if you will, on financial services, given the fact that others, like Brussels or Luxembourg, others, Frankfurt, they are vying for your business?
One thing is certain, there's no one key financial centre coming up to the top apart from London. So there's nothing particularly in Germany. Germany is not attracting one big financial centre. Paris in France isn't doing the same. So you're going to have a complete fragmented financial services sector if we're not careful across Europe. And I think that's one of the worries for all of us, because the more fragmented it is, the more Europe loses as a whole. So we are really hopeful that there will be some special regime, some special environment that can accommodate financial services operating still on the global markets.
Quickly, for 2018 and looking back at 2017, one of the costliest years for underwriting because of the natural disasters that we had, a number of different hurricanes, as well as the fires in California. What's going to be the impact for the full year?
Well, Lloyds is always there to pay for when disaster strikes. That's our business. And 2017 was very, very catastrophic. 2018, because of the uncertainty, I suppose, about what nature will do, it's very, very difficult to predict what 2018 will do. But Lloyds is in a very strong position. We've got strongest balance sheet we've ever had in our entire nearly 330-year history. So we're there to weather any storm that will come along.
Okay. Inga Beale, CEO of Lloyds, thanks so much for your time on Bloomberg Television.